Good evening. You're listening live to the Extreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob. I am broadcasting to you deep inside the Pinehurst Palace, just west of Orlando, Florida. I have here in the Extreme Studio with me the young 20-something Professor Pixel. And tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we're treating you to our occasional James Bond review as a young 20-something man. Professor Pixel has to watch the Bond series. That's just kind of like one of the rules of life, right? So we're working our way through in order whenever we go from one TV show that we review to another. And since we're on a break of Columbo Season 3, before we do something else, we're up to the next James Bond movie, Tomorrow Never Dies, from 1997. Pixel, I believe this came out late December of that year. I fondly recall, or unfondly recall, that this is the only movie I slept with because it's just there. And I don't hate Pierce Brosnan, and I love Michelle Yeoh, and there's things in here that I really like. But this is what we would call a mise en place, as the French would say, which means put all your shit on the table, and then you got to figure out how to cook it. And while a good practice, sometimes if you just start eating shit off the counter, it just doesn't taste good. And that's what this Bond movie is for me. I just got through watching it not too long ago today, and I'm like, man, and I'm trying to find reasons to like it. And there's certain spots that I like, and I'm going, why do I like it, and why does it suck? And it all comes down to that stupid head Elliot Carver, and it has nothing to do with the actor. There's something weird about this movie, and I don't know how to phrase it. And I'm curious because I think this is a first watch for you. So what's your initial take on here?
This was a first watch for me. See, I'm actually another mind about it. I like quite a bit of this movie, but it's not done well. Like, there are all the elements here that make a James Bond movie, and if they just upped it a little bit, I think I would love this movie. I don't think Elliot Carver is the problem, though. I delight in his foolish attitude towards what he wants to achieve. Oh, bad news is the best news. That I have no problem with Elliot Carver. That isn't it. This is filled with. I think he's a fine villain. We have a couple side villains as well. There's one that's really good, and then one not so good. But this film is just—it doesn't have any punch.
It is lacking in that. And the basic idea here, ladies and gentlemen, as we go through it all, is we just kind of go through some of the key scenes, going through it linearly, and just sort of talk about what we like, don't like, and what works and doesn't. And for me, Pixel, I'll say this. I've always said this. First reaction someone says about Pierce Brosnan says, looks good in a suit. And I don't mean that being an insult. He was always a pretty boy. I think he's aged well over the years. I was never necessarily a Remington Steele guy, as I've often said. And I really honestly like The World Is Not Enough, which will be the next one we do when we go to review Bond films. And I love it. This one, though, it's the second film of him being Bond. And some people say, oh, he's a hybrid. He's the best of both because he's just like Roger Moore and he's just like Sean Connery. I'm like, nah, I really don't see it that way. And I get you want to take what works. So I don't think he's found himself here because there's some scenes that have some great stuff to it, but I think the fail for me here is while there's a great idea that you're using media at the time when the internet was starting to become mainstream, as well as phones and communication, that Elliot Carver is the bad guy can influence global events. Now, we may talk a little bit about why he wants to do it or not, but basically the Chinese are involved, and in the 90s, Hong Kong was getting ready to fall to the Chinese or revert back to them as a communist country. China being a full-on communist country with Lao Beijing, the normal people there who despised all the communists that take over, they're not free at all there. So there's this whole idea of how can we influence stuff. So with the advent of late 80s, early 90s talk radio becoming a thing on AM radio, which was nothing at the time, which used to be the first and only thing in radio, people that were very popular like Rush Limbaugh and conservative hosts found like this brand new life in media. And so a lot of regular television kind of found themselves going, well, wait a minute, how can radio and media be so popular? And this was interesting because now you've got the internet and other things going for it. And, there's a few key things that we'll talk about more in here. But why don't you get us started through the opening Gambit song and whatnot? Let's get going, baby.
Sure. We have, man, I wish I knew the actor's name off the top of my head. I think it's like, I think it's Colin Salmon. He's a British actor that I recognize, and is currently overseeing an operation. M's right behind him as they're trying to take down some terrorists right on the Russian border. And they're watching, and you have like head of the military watching behind. Okay, this is a military operation now, and they just want to go ahead and blow it sky high. There's a problem, though. There's a jet that they didn't notice that is currently carrying 2 nuclear torpedoes that if they hit, it's going to go ahead and set them off.
Kablooey.
Be devastating, huh?
Kablooey.
Kablooey and
Kerplow.
Yeah. They want to go ahead, but they've already fired the missiles out at it. But luckily, there's a white knight there to help take it down.
He's too good looking to be an infiltrator. I mean, that's the bottom line. He should stand out.
Yeah. Well, Bond goes ahead. He rushes in. He has to fight his way to the plane, takes it, and he's just trying to fly off. I love that there was a guy in the back seat just right there, just like chilling as they go ahead and keep going, and he ends up choking him out. But this is a fun opener. It doesn't really have anything to do with our actual movie, but it's fun.
I'm going to disagree with you completely on it.
Really?
This is one of the worst openings. It's very bland, boring. You're right. It doesn't have necessarily anything to do with stuff other than the stuff when James Bond is not on screen, because his action and all that, while it can be a bit goofy, it's not a strong suit, and it's just a confirmation that the Bond franchise is going to more of an action-oriented sort of thing here with these guns and silly stuff, and it doesn't work for me. It's not good spy stuff that I think would make Pierce Brosnan excel in. You know, he does fine in it. I love the gold lighter that's a bomb and everything, but it's just kaplow, a bunch of this and that or whatever. We know what's going to happen because he gets out, and that's fine, whatever.
You didn't love the guy. Love him going ahead and what is it? Where
he's ejecting the
guy into the other plane and causing it to spiral.
Okay, but here's my problem, and this is the problem when you have the second film of an actor that you're trying to find your footing, because a lot of times we'll sit there and say the third film is when a James Bond actor really finds himself, and that's something we'll be debating a little bit later on. But I think here is, while there's a certain element of camp and goofy and Bond, and that's fine, if you're going to do that, do that. The problem here is it's very difficult for me, and I think for a lot of people at the time, to go, oh, the Remington Steele guy's an action star now. No, and Bond with gadgets, this is over-relying on it in this film. And also, if you're going to be a little serious with him and try to sell him as a bit of a tough action guy, then sell it. You know, tone down the goofy remarks and one-liners and save it for when he's betting women, because he's a pro at that and he's really good at it. And that's where he really excels, in my opinion, is when he has a woman across from him. But the real stuff that's going on here that's actually interesting and serious, which is against what's going on here, the goofy campy action, is the fact that we have Emma in there, and the basic sexist conversation they're having was like, you know, frankly, Emma, I don't think you have the balls to make the appropriate decision here. And she's like, well, I don't need them to do all my thinking for me. And she's a strong presence. I like her in that role. I like the thing between her and Bond, but it's okay. We're cutting between this and that, and it's like, what tone are you trying to set for the movie? And that's one of the major issues that follows through the whole movie, because you're right, it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with it, but I can't help but point out the fact that some of the strengths of this movie is also involved in here too, because the idea of using media to control things, and the fact that now, as she would say, I'm letting my man on the inside do his job, meaning Bond make the decisions. To me, I'm old school. That's how it should be. But a lot of times you have decision making by committee, and it always ruins businesses. When you hear private equity taking over, it screws things up, and you get that in the military in this situation here, and that's fine. I will say this: I don't mind a laid back kind of opening like we have in here, but this one's a snooze fest. This one should have been a background song in some other part of the movie. There's no energy to it, no juice. You have action that's campy, you have a serious thing, and then you have a very laid back kind of opening thing here. What the hell are you trying to do here?
Actually, I was wrong, by the way. I said it has nothing to do with the it doesn't have anything to do with the actual plot going forward, but one of the terrorists there does get the decoder that is used to go ahead and put the ship that we'll see sinking in a minute. But I have to pause this here because I need to talk about the title card.
Okay.
Our little title card, because this is one of those things that I love. And this is where it's all going to just start going wrong, because this one sucked. You really sucked. And you know what? I think that's one of my problems with this movie. I mean, you have Teri Hatcher, and we'll talk about her as a character coming up later. And I think Michelle, she was great in this. Both lovely women. This movie is not like sleek and sexy. It's not that. It is the opposite of that.
See, and I'm going to say that it is in some scenes too. This is interesting. Yeah, keep going.
But starting with the title card, because that's what I want to focus on. You have this digital look, and that's what they're going for. None of the women that are shown in it it doesn't feel raw and real. It's not art anymore. It's slop, and that's what sucks. And I'll wait to talk about Teri Hatcher when we get to her, which should be soon.
Yeah, we see Elliot Carver inside his evil empire room, and actually the one thing that I think stood out in this film was I liked a lot of the above ground scenes of the locations that they're in, especially with Bond in the background with Michelle Yeoh later on. But even here, I like his building, I like his structure. It looks realistic, not futuristic, but it looks like it's at that time, mid to late 90s. There is a tone and feel to this where there's almost that like industrial music club feel to it. And he's sitting here talking with everybody. He's got the Forerunner that would be the tablet that everybody has now, the tapping stuff and dealing with people and all that. That's cool. But he's just a putz. And I'm not knocking the actor or his intensity or his delivery or even the writing of it. But I'm watching, I'm going, really, this guy's the threat? Get the fuck out of here. There's got to be some other way to present it where you feel like it's more evil. And I'm not, again, I almost feel guilty saying I don't feel like it's his fault. And I'm not even saying the writing, but again, if you had a more serious tone to it, maybe this guy wasn't so grandstanding and trying to be like the old Bond villains that were laughable and not ones that we take serious at all, that's fine. But I think they were going for some, I really, really do. I really felt like this could have been done a bit more serious, right? I mean, and again, he comes in here, they're trying to establish him being the big baddie, right? Okay, that's fine. You're right. The terrorist, we see him get this encoder, right? The red box. And then we see what Pierce Brosnan excels in. He's at Oxford studying Danish, meaning he's boning one in bed. And when he gets the call, basically saying, hey, you got to get in here and all that. This is where Pierce Brosnan excels in. And it's great. And it looks sumptuous and the girl's cute and all that. And it doesn't have to be sexy. It can just be beautiful to look at. And so when he gets there and they're all talking about what's going on, I'm like, okay, Pierce is stepping it up a little bit. When he's very serious and doing this kind of stuff, it's great. The action stuff, we don't need it. And this is the scene where, again, we have the sexist kind of stuff. And it's kind of like long-term writing because they did this in the last movie and we may see it in the next one as well. But when Bond's being transported around with the police thing while they're discussing it, I'm like, that's cool because they haven't done it before. Damn, he's got a great suit. And she's like, I believe Mr. Carver's wife, Paris, is like, that was a long time ago before she was married. And it's like, I thought some things were private, And he's so good at these kinds of comments and writing them. Like, this feels cool when they're in the limo with the police around them. They're driving through the streets talking like, all right, I'm feeling it. This is getting spy stuffy. This is getting kind of cool. And then what it is he's got invited to go to Carver's special thing about a satellite. And this, to me, I'm starting to really like it at this point because he's in this really big place where they have all the train station or whatever like that. He talks to the lady in German who goes off to do something, and then we see Q who gives him his gadgets. They have great chemistry. He's dressed immaculately, beautifully. He's got all the papers that are out there where he sees the stuff Carver is writing. And of course, the question is wait a minute. If this paper came out 3 hours ago, how did they get this information when the Vietnamese people that recovered the bodies didn't do it in enough time where that could happen? So the idea here is that there's a mole. Either it's Carver or somebody in it, and that's what Bond's going for, because he has a 48-hour window to try to figure out what's going on here. So this stuff was pretty cool, but I got to be honest with you, the reason why they did the BMW in here, and BMWs at that time were pretty cool looking, not anymore. And it's a great color and all that. I'm not into the cars with the guns and all that other kind of shit and remote control. But it is what it is, right? And these guys are so good.
Okay.
It's so tacky and stupid. It really is a letdown.
Here's my opinion on that. Because we will actually get to where he gets to show the car in its full use. I'm usually of that mind when it comes to half of the gadgets that he gets. But something about the car where when we get to the chase later and he's in the back seat and he's using his phone to go ahead and control it.
Lame with the capital L.
Oh, no, it's so much. It's
trash.
fun.
Straight trash, bro.
Oh, man.
Well, it's the application of the tool in a creative way that makes you look at James Bond and go, man, he thought of that in the heat of the moment, and whether it worked or it didn't, that was cool. And it used to be that way with stuff. Now it's just, we'll fire a bunch of guns, not get hit, a hair won't move out of place. We won't even see the gunfire. We'll have a car that, because of the sponsorship in here, that'll control with his remote control Sony Ericsson phone at the time that was cutting edge. And on the patent, it's lame. It really detracts from the tone that is being set, because in this next scene when he actually goes to meet Carver and you've got this like industrial kind of feel, the music I really actually like. The background music here in this movie, the score is one thing, but background music and tone, especially when we meet Elliot Carver's wife and we meet Michelle Yeoh's character in here that's posing as somebody that snuck in. They're stunning, beautiful women, but they're written like side pieces and shit. And Teri Hatcher, it's not her fault. She does good with the crap she's given.
Yeah.
And they have a great exchange here. And they've, Carver's getting ready to go live to talk about something. And, Bond shuts him down. And there's the good typical spy stuff back and forth with Bond and all that. And with Teri Hatcher and the drinks and all that. This is good Bond stuff. Let it be spy stuff like this. Just let it unfold. This is Pierce's strong suit, literally. Let's get more of this instead of the other bullshit.
Yeah, the major problem comes in here where Carver goes ahead and says, "Oh, well, I have a problem with a banker," and because while he might want to know more about Bond, to go ahead and try to just put him in a back room to be killed with later to find out, just pump for information, he lets himself destroys. He lets Bond ruin his event.
But he knows Bond's onto him because of the comment that he makes there, and that's the double entendre conversation that is good in Bond, and not just the sexual one-liners, but he's like, I was just wondering about your silence, the way you're positioned globally, and he's basically like shitting on Bond going, well, they're merely tools for information, and then Bond's like, well, disinformation, perhaps. And he's like, and then he makes a comment about, hey, you could even do that with governments or even a ship. And at that point, he knows he's got to eliminate him. So I have absolutely no issues with that at all. I actually like that. He's powerful enough not to be bothered. So he has his people on it immediately, including the big, bad, evil German guy, right? The beautiful blonde. And he has got a beautiful blonde assistant, whether she's German or Danish and all that. This is kind of a beautiful film. There's beautiful people in her left and right. There's beautiful outfits, except Carver's outfit looks like shit. This looks worse than Dr. No and the first one when he's dressed up in that commie sort of Chinese type outfit. I'm being dead serious here. That's one of the things that ruins it for him. If he was in a dapper suit or something, he would look great. I don't understand it.
I think we're just on different sides here, because
we are.
I think the German guy with half an accent, he doesn't even sound like he's really got the German accent.
I don't disagree with you on that.
It's half there. He's lame duck. He wants to be a convincing side villain. He's not. He most of his time is just standing there staring at the screen.
I know. I agree with you. He's not done any favors by the way it's written. Don't have him in there at all.
And yeah, I'm not saying that. Well, I think that is the one thing that we can say for everybody in this movie. It's not their fault.
Yeah.
I think the director's partially to blame. I think the writer's probably partially to blame, but the actors aren't at fault here. Because if this guy really seemed like a threat, if he was the one that got Bond back there and like put him in his place, and then he had to step away to go ahead for the actual launch, and that's when Bond deals with the side his henchmen, that could have worked better. Because he just doesn't have any presence. And when we get to the point later, towards the end, and we talk about how he gets got, it'll be fine. Because no, Bond deals with the henchmen easily, and he's like, "Well, it's time to shut it down," and he turns it all off, and he's gone. Goes back to his hotel room, and he's just drinking, waiting. The door opens, and guess who? It's Elliot Carver's wife. Here's the thing I don't understand, because you have a scene where Elliot Carver goes after the event to his wife and say, "How did you know him?" After Paris goes to Bond, I thought that Elliot was using her.
Well, that's the whole point.
That would have been a better angle than.
I'm with you, and it would have given her a meatier role, right? Rather than what it turns out to be. Because here's the thing. We can say in a Bond movie, we've seen similar structures before. And in spy movies, one of the classic ones is where you're sitting next to a lamp with the light off and you got your gun out here. And again, Pierce Brosnan doesn't even have to talk. He can be there with his shirt halfway undone and, his tux and all that, sitting or drinking and all that. And he is the best looking Bond of all of them doing that. Better than Connery, better than Dalton and all that. I'm not talking about top to bottom. He's the best. But in scenes like that are a strength, build towards it. So, and he basically says that. And the thing with Bond, too, as a spy, we're not getting a lot of the cynicism that we might have had, say, in Connery or a little bit here and there, or just if we're modernizing it with the news media and how cynical we are towards instant information and how it's manipulated, which was the tone of this movie, allegedly. They could have leaned into that because you're right. She comes in here, gives the exact same performance, and then, yes, it would have been delicious, right? You would not have seen it coming. That's why, and I know spoilers, when we go to do the next movie, which you have not seen, hopefully they do that better is all I will say at this point. Because this is great. And of course he makes sweet, sweet love to her. She lets him know what's going on.
This is the scene that comes close to actually something that's titillating. He goes out and takes off that top part of her ridiculous dress. That
beautiful dress.
Beautiful? Oh no, it's far too with all the damn feathers. Are you kidding?
You don't like the frills?
No, the frills are just too distracting. When he takes it off, that's the best she looks.
She needs a little bit more of a butt, but I'm not complaining. No, she's a very stunning woman. She's got the thing is a dress like that would have been custom made for this. And of course, everything's fitted and suited and everything here, as well as the colors that are picked out and stuff. So that's why your eyes aren't drawn to the ruffles there unless you haven't seen stuff like it before. But I think it's just on her right arm, if I'm looking at it correctly. And she does a good job of just commanding that old passion that she had or whatever, because she slapped the beginning and say, well, and he's like, well, is it something I said? She's like, well, how about I'll be right back or whatever. And she realizes, I think, too, based off the interaction between Bond and her husband, that her husband's failed. And a problem with her, the way the role is written, is that he's like, well, why did you marry him? He said he loved me. And then Bond's got a great line. Well, that always sounds nice. I mean, it's there. But Bond's playing it as like he kind of liked her, kind of sort of. Although Bond, the way he was written in books, was not that way. He was a serial kind of guy. But here, it's kind of like you're 100% right, because give a Bond woman something that's a little more meatier on the bone, not just be a sex object. And I'm not complaining about her looks or anything here. We know this was going to go. We know exactly.
I want to go ahead and pause right here though, and actually talk about that. So when you were talking about Pierce Brosnan, he's the best going ahead and just looking visually. He'll sit there, his shirt half undone. Not half. A movie is a visual medium. And one of the things that these movies, especially in the past, could do was capture just a person's stunning beauty.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with you.
This movie fails. I make the thumbnails for these movies, and this one was the hardest one yet, because I could not find a damn good angle on either Teri or Michelle, and it was ridiculous.
You know, you're bringing up an interesting point there because for me, we think of Sean Connery, we think of masculinity and old school kind of what that meant. And then we think of Roger Moore as charming because he, while 6'3", probably in real life, honestly, a tall guy himself, he just doesn't give you that visually that you might have thought of with Sean Connery. And we think of Dalton being somewhat realistic, kind of in between the two, or at least more the Sean Connery, but cultured side. I think the thing with Pierce is he's a beautiful person. And at some point, I know with the Dalton movies, even though he only did the two, they were really trying to de-emphasize the alleged sexual nature of all that. And it's hard to say that when you have names like Xena on a top and everything else there too. But I think they like British, they kind of wussed out on it. So if you're going to say you're going to try to make the women more important and more integral and all that, or more supporting, don't just throw in a sexist kind of thing with M and all that as a thing that we get to see, because it's not really fun, even though she's a great actress. And there's good dynamic between her and Bond. But you're right. It's like, let us see them in their beauty. Give us a camera shot going from the heels up, and she's saying something like, "And who are you, mister?" And then you see her face, and he goes, "Bond, James Bond." Because that was I think that's the interaction where they met, is when Moby, who was really popular back in the 90s, took that and did his own like remix for it, which is actually pretty damn good. It's just, you're right. If you have it, show us. And if you know Teri Hatcher's only a part of this to so much, give her that moment that we can just go, wow, and she's like, well, I know what bed you laid in, we're referencing her comment. She's like, well, I'm standing in your doorway right now. Do something there while they're doing it. Stretch this out a little bit longer. They're like, okay, he's going to bone her, get the information, she's going to die.
I thought they almost did. And I think the camera work here is just, it's miserable.
Shoddy.
It's miserable.
Yeah, it's so G-rated.
They sleep together, and then you have Carver saying, I need to make my wife an appointment with the doctor.
Oh, I'm terrified what that could mean, because you wrote this guy as a fucking clown, and it's going to get worse with the doctor.
Oh, wow. Really? I love the doctor.
No, awful. But I will tell you.
So we get...
Go ahead.
Is there a scene between...
Yes.
I can't even really remember.
So she gives me information about having a secret lab that even I'm not supposed to know about, she says. Yes, and so this is when he goes to the secret lab. And this is one of the scenes I was referencing earlier. I said I like to see the background where he's walking up there and going in and chase stuff like this and using the gun to like shut doors behind you and stuff like that. That's cool to me. I don't need guns killing each other and all that stuff. It's just whatever. And the whole chasing thing here, him in a suit running around, there's something about being dressed to the nines running around in a modern day building or whatever, that's fine. But he also sees Wai Lin or whatever, which is Michelle Yeoh's character. This time she's kind of in her own like ninja like outfit there too.
Yeah,
so
she's got this ridiculous leather outfit.
Black leather, yeah.
Come on, if you're going to cat suited up, do it right. God.
Well, the thing with Michelle Yeoh is I think she was a former Miss Indonesia, or Singapore or something, and she's been in a lot of movies. I think there's one from '85 with Jackie Chan where she drives a motorcycle onto a fucking moving train, and it's one of the best stunt movies I've ever seen. I've covered that here on Extreme Movie Show with my host from the Midwest, RDV. So check that out, guys. We've done a lot of her films as well, Cynthia Rothrock and others. But and here they wanted to have it because at the time in the 90s, I will say this culturally, with obviously China being a communist country, the idea at the time with the presidency in America was that, well, if we give them what's called most favored nation status, their market will open up to us. And with the billion plus people, that might mean a lot more money to our movies. So China would sit there and say, okay, you can do this, but you have to take this out or that out. And so the Bond movies have, even Top Gun, I believe, famously would take symbols off jackets that would normally be there just to not upset the Communist Party so they could have their movie running in it. And this became quite known as the internet became at this time, where a lot of people went to go get information about cultural media type things or whatever. So having Michelle Yeoh in here as a crossover to get the Bond franchise over there was significant in it. And it feels forced because as good as Michelle Yeoh is, they put that in there. And it's like, well, why do we need somebody doing his second movie as James Bond, who was fine in his first one? Why does he need somebody to work with? Now, in the defense of that idea, that's something that I think is very well suited for Pierce Brosnan, having a female to work against. That's why I think a female villain would have been very good for him to have had. And here, she's in here, but honestly, I don't think she's in here enough. And him sneaking out of the printing press, type building where his media company, I thought this is kind of okay, except for it ends with the stupid car chase scene. The remote control car, which I despise and thought was a piece of trash.
I loved it. And then when he goes ahead, hops out, and he convinces he crashes the car out the side into the rent-a-car store, and you have the people chasing him topple on the side. I think the car should have fallen. That would have just icing on the cake. But I like that. I really did. Like I know
if you're going to be cheeky like Roger Moore, that would work. But there's been enough back and forth between being actiony, cheeky, and somewhat serious. And I think this movie only works when they have a bit of a serious, cynical tone.
Really? Yes. I don't get that. I think that with how serious, I feel like that is not what I'm missing. I like the little bits here and there going ahead and giving, because these are the elements. I think that this movie is just lacking the follow-through of it.
Because it's trying to do three things at once. Here's my point.
Maybe. So, and all while not being sexy enough.
And that's exactly true, because we want to see it happening. We don't want all this verbal diarrhea coming in, telling us all the stuff that's going on. We get enough talking and stuff. And when it's Bond and a woman, we're going to listen. When this guy talks, he talks almost like he's an AI voice, which is not good because you don't listen to it. And I know AI is supposedly the hot thing now, and I'm telling you, it's infiltrated everything from HR to all the stuff on YouTube and art and all that. It's complete trash, and it doesn't do anybody any good. And it does take the art away about it, which, as the young 20-something, you kind of mentioned something like that early on, and I thought that was spot on because it's true. The thing here is, this is where it really starts going downhill for me. When he gets the call as he's driving away from Carver about, you have something of mine, the red box, and my wife in your apartment. So he rushes back to the apartment. And again, I kind of like visually seeing this beautiful outside facade of the apartment, him going in, and the evil German bad guy who's a goof
watching on the rooftop.
Well, I mean, she's sitting there dead, and he's hurt, and he's acting. And then this mentor, Dr. Kaufman, comes in, who's the German guy's mentor, and that's important for a scene coming up here later. He's in here, and this guy has an even worse German accent, and he's supposed to kill Bond.
I love this guy.
This is fucking horrible. This is by far one of the worst bullshit henchmen in any of the Bond movies.
No.
This guy is dog shit. He's been in bad shit in the 70s and 80s as a two-bit actor. He's not intimidating. This guy is a fucking dork with a small D. I mean, let me ask you this, and I'm dead serious. Please answer me this. Whether you like it or not, how could you take this fucking guy seriously?
Because he feels gross and wrong. Do you remember when we had what was the movie that has the two henchmen? That oh yes, Mr.
Yeah, the gay henchman. That's Diamonds Are Forever.
Yes, yeah. You weren't a fan of them either, were you?
No, because here's the thing. When I talk about writing from the English perspective, after World War II, a lot of progressives made it into the English military or political scene, and of course now it's not like how it used to be. Obviously, anybody in London or anywhere else would tell you that, and we could say that here about the United States. But the writers for Bond at the time, they would throw in something a little subversive and goofy just because they wanted to, and that's what those guys were.
I think that works.
No. If you read and research all that stuff and read about the writing, who did all that, he did it to pop himself. It's like an inside joke. It wasn't supposed to be funny for us or anything else like that. Mr. Went and the other guy, no, fucking horrible and distracting. And whether you call it British humor or not, I don't get it. It doesn't work, and it does not work here.
Well, I think it's fun, and I think this guy feels that way because they don't feel natural. They feel like these gross outer beings that you wouldn't want to be near. I don't think that he's like seriously a physical threat. That's why when he goes over to him, and it's like, oh well, Bond's.
I agree. He comes across as slimy, but not dangerous, which is the fucking point when he's Elliot Carver's #1 fucking henchman who was hired to kill his wife and is the torture mentor of this guy that's supposed to be his muscle. It's a fucking joke. Not serious at all.
No. See, because I feel like he is, oh, well, I've arranged the scene just perfectly.
Yeah, and you're smiling while imitating it because there's no threat behind it. This guy's a joke. He's a fucking clown. This is no Robert Shaw from Russia with Love on the Train. And you go, oh my God, this guy's a threat.
He's still more entertaining than the German guy. And that's
so entertaining is interesting that you say that, because it's not about somebody coming on and stealing a scene, because that's popping it for yourself. It's about, it's like if you're a player on a team and the first thing you do when you do something good is you have like a special celebratory dance or you do something like that. You're popping yourself. You're not in it for your team. And the whole point is this is a Bond movie. Everything's supposed to support Bond. And I know you have a lot of side actors and one-offs and beautiful women and dumb henchmen that are almost never a threat. You could do them a little bit of justice and take it a little bit more seriously, and people might buy into it. And I think when you're doing the second film of a brand new actor playing this role here, you might want to do that. But no, you want to put stupid shit in there and pop yourself and call it entertainment when it doesn't actually do anything to make Bond look good. In other words, it's not effective in its use of what it's supposed to be there for, which is to make Elliot Carver's empire seem like it's a threat or that he's really on something. You never get the sense that Elliot Carver is 1 or 2 steps ahead of Bond, even though he's got command of this literally global empire. And I'll rant here just for a second. As a alleged investor in a company called ASTS, which I made a crap ton of money this year already on, global positioning satellites is the be-all and end-all of communications, because if you can have your internet and anything 4G, 5G coming from outer space with that's where the big space wars are going to be coming from. It's going to be knocking out that infrastructure. And so they're a few launches away from absolutely having it where you can use your cell phone anywhere in the world without having to use cell phone towers and all that. And it's literally a binary bet. It's either going to work and it's going to be a $500,000 stock in 10 years, or it's the patents might make the stock worth $50 and that's it. Either way, I've still made a lot of money. But I'm talking lifetime big change. It's one of those things. So again, what I said earlier about this movie being prescient and ahead of the curve early on was very interesting about manipulating media and the internet and everything else there too. So I thought, okay, this is a really smart idea these writers have come up with, of trying to take something that's current with Bond and putting that in there, putting in these current types of locations and building senses in modern London. That's great. Like the club scene where they all met, that's really good stuff. And then you cheapen it by throwing in some bullshit stuff like this, or a guy that's like 5'6" and acting slimy and think that's entertaining. It's not serving the purpose of Bond. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's insulting as a Bond fan. End of rant.
It's just like, I'm more outraged that they just go. All she exists for is to sleep with him and die.
Well, yeah, I'm with you. I think it would have been great if she worked for him, because really,
like,
we're over an hour into the film. We're into the last act, where basically he's going to go into he basically meets with the Americans, and we get Joe Don Baker in here that actually has some juice, right? And he's basically saying, hey, what could you make a ship look like it appears somewhere here and there? So he's going to go look for this ship, and he's using the Americans to kind of drop him off. So this is kind of cool. He's gonna parachute down into the South China Sea or whatever it is, and he's going to go in there, and this is where he meets Wai Lin again, Michelle Yeoh's character, and this is where they spend the most of the rest of the movie together, which is cool, right? And there's some interesting things that they do here. But again, we're getting into the third act, and I'm going, what's the threat exactly? What's the grand plan here?
Yeah.
Why do we care? They just have a yuck, and then they have this, and then they have that. It's like, what are you going for? There's no momentum building up as this snowball is supposed to be rolling downhill. That's the problem with this film.
Yeah, no. You have Elliot Carver, who just wants to go ahead and start World War III just so that way he can have the
media right
news deal in China.
Yeah.
That's stupid. It's weak. But I don't think that's Elliot Carver. I don't think that's the actor's fault. And I think the character could be good if it had a better motivation. I also think that all this technology that's going into this, because when we didn't even talk about how they deal with the ship at the beginning of the movie. Like, they use this
They
drill.
set up false signals, and so yeah, and
False signal
they
in
made
this
the
drill.
communications look like interfered with each other. I mean,
Yeah.
I get it, but
I
it's
mean-
also, to your point, which I agree with, the motivations. When they're personal motivations, it's the best, and that's the human thing. When it's technological and this kind of stuff, why do we fucking care? We don't. We don't. As human beings, we don't.
Take me back to Moonraker with the
But there's an
guy
idea
wanting to
there, and it
send
makes sense with the
perfect
way.
people to space.
But if you go back and watch Moonraker, all the different women he meets and men, they're all beautiful and they're all different ancestries, and that's pertinent to the story, and you don't find out till later why.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's not that they're just pretty to look at because it's a movie. It has something to do with the story.
And you get to the final act, and you know, if you've listened to our reviews in the past, we always fall off on the final act. We do here as well, because the militaries realize, hey, wait a minute, what's this? It's a secret shadow ship, and they just start aiming at it, and it slowly gets taken down, and Bond is able to deal with Carver by using that drill from before. You forgot what's his line? You forgot the number one thing about news, Elliot. Give the people what they want, and then he pushes them in. There was a better closing line for that.
Yeah, all of that's set up by the fact that when he no, I was going to say it was all set up by when he dive bombs into the sea to go look for the information in the wrecked ship, and he runs into her again. They get captured by Carver's crew, and this is when supposedly the German guy gets the torture devices so he can interfere with your chakras, such as your testicles and heart, and save that one for last when you pull his heart out, because he'll just be conscious enough to still see it beating. Get the fuck out of here. And when he's standing there with his eyes open like they're all glazed, like he's Tony Khan or something from AEW, and he's just typing 100 words per minute with his hand, that's fucking lame. But basically, I did like how in his uber tall Saigon high rise there that they zoomed in on. That was kind of a cool thing. And honestly, as bad as it was and cheesy as it was, you've got to give him a show. Yeah, and he always some stunts. So they're handcuffed together, and so they basically get their way out by jumping outside of the building onto a giant banner of his face that we see as they zoomed in when they caught him originally, and it rips just in time for them to somehow make it through, crashing through a window and escaping. And then, of course, there's a motorcycle chase that she's involved in. We get to see her shine a little bit. So again, this is just where the movie shines, because you've got Michelle Yeoh, who's a very naturally beautiful woman. She comes across as very competent. She's done an incredible job in her career of doing a lot of her own stunts and being involved with stuff. She's written strongly. Bond's not necessarily written weakly, but Pierce's strength, I think, as Bond here is playing off a woman, and they do some great stuff in here where he's like, do you still think you can do it alone? And she basically gives him an update for what you're talking about here for this last little bit. So at this point, I'm not feeling a threat. I'm not feeling what will happen if they don't accomplish their mission, or God forbid, is she going to die? And I go, no, because she's Michelle Yeoh. For some reason, like I say, they wanted to open up the Chinese market. Look, I'm only saying this is the 80s guy here because you're the aughts guy or whatever, the young 20-something I like to say. Because whenever I do Rob's Redskins review, I remember 40 plus years ago during their glory days. I remember what it was like to sit there and think about communist as a bad word. I also remember what it was like before the NBA, NFL, and every major sports franchises, as well as movie houses, would sit there and say, we have to do whatever China tells us to do. And that's just kind of how it is. So again, this movie, very prescient for the time. And I give them credit, because if they can figure that out that time with that insight, but then not do a great job with it, it makes me a little pissed. Because here, the ending, it's nice that they're sailing around in, an Asian boat and getting ready to go do stuff. Michelle's a natural. She's been doing this for a long time. These two together on screen, they should have been together maybe from the beginning or something, rather than undercover meeting, or though it worked. But Bond in Asia has not been a bad thing. I mean, I still like The Man with the Golden Gun, even though there's some misses in there with Christopher Lee, and they're over there in was it Phuket or wherever. This is kind of cool, but yeah, the ending, what do we really care about?
No, nothing. When Bond ends up. Wait, there's that missile that was going to be shooting out. I guess Bond sets it off course. That way it doesn't go, because Carver at the end was saying that, oh, well, I'll go ahead and blow up Beijing anyway.
They're going to basically send like the missile like into
Yeah,
China
so what,
to
does
make
he
it
knock
look
it
like
off
whatever, so it
course?
can start World War III. To your point, and that's the whole thing. But we don't really care. We were
Yeah,
saying,
no.
okay, these two have to go in a secret ship, and they got to stop them.
Yeah, and they I mean, they do. And at the end, like, her in chains unchains her, and they're just, oh, well, let's stay undercover. And it's, I don't get really any real chemistry between them. I think that's a problem here. I feel like there's, I mean, they're sharing scenes together. That's it.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't.
like, okay, you say your
I
line, then
don't
I'll say my
believe
line.
that she's a romantic interest for
No,
James
she's not
Bond.
supposed to be. China would not want that. They absolutely would not want that. That's why Jackie Chan always had, even though he's like a comedy physical actor with his movies, intentionally he never really kissed any of them or had them as sexual interests and all that too, because that would have been frowned upon in that culture. Absolutely, that's the legitimate thing there too. It's not just because of that. I mean, come on, you look at her. I mean, you got two gorgeous women in this movie, and you don't really do much with them.
No, no. That was really disappointing with GoldenEye, but I think I'm more disappointed with this one.
You know, it's weird because it was a little more frustrating, like I said, when I saw this movie, because I just thought, whatever it is you're going to be that way. And sometimes the movie's trying to be one way and it works or it doesn't, or you like it or you don't, but you think it works. And like I said before, usually it's that third movie that you go, okay, they make a quantum leap in figuring out where Bond's going to be. And at this point, you know, Bond and Michelle save the day and all that, and they're not necessarily physically intimate or whatever, which is fine. I don't necessarily have a problem with that. I really don't at all. I thought she was fine into it. Now, was she necessary? No, that's another problem with the writing. But I don't mind that she was in it, and because it's Michelle Yeoh, I give it the thumbs up because I've always liked her as an actress. Always thought she's done well in pretty much everything she's done and stuff that I saw. But Carver's a joke. The idea was interesting, but interesting isn't automatically entertaining and fun. And it's boring, and it's a snooze fest, and it's one of the worst Bond films. And it's probably one of, it's not Pierce's worst one. We'll talk about those as we see the others later, and a lot of them are first watches for you. So I don't want to spoil, you know, what your thoughts going to be, because we always do this raw off the cuff without talking to each other. But it's just the one thing I asked myself at the end of this movie is, okay, two Bond movies down, where have they gone? And I feel like they didn't really go anywhere with here. I think they even took away from Pierce's ability to shine because they decided to add in a female sort of kinda for the third act. Even though it plays to his strength, I still felt they were establishing him. I will positively say that, in my opinion, when we talk about The World Is Not Enough after our next TV show review in a few months, to me, that's a fantastic one, and they get a lot of things right in there that I was hoping they would do it, because I haven't seen much of a change from the last movie to this one. So, like you saying, you're a little disappointed in GoldenEye, right? I kind of was too. I just, it's not Pierce that I'm disappointed with, and you know, I don't want it to come across that way. I really blame the Braun franchise, because I think this is the first movie, and this is significant in that the Broccolis weren't necessarily fully involved with it, or the original one, the dad was dead. So there's a changing of the guard, kind of, so to speak. Just like now, the big news is I think either Amazon or somebody, MGM, got sold to Amazon. So now the rights to Bond have gone to them. So now they can do whatever they want without the creative control and use of the family members. Because it was Barbara Broccoli that got involved and really made woke Bond and progressive Bond and up-to-date Bond, whatever you want to call it. And we'll get into that with all the rest of the Bond movies, to see whether that's valid or not. We'll see. And you know, it's only been 5-6 years now since the last Bond movies. It'll probably only be about 4 more until we get the next one, on all honesty, too, because they can't even figure out who they want to have in it. It's really stupid at this point. So without knowing what you want Bond to be, which is what the current state of the franchise is, you can't really do anything with it. And I think here they were just trying to play it safe and get something out. That's what it felt like to me. I give Michelle a lot of credit. I give Pierce a lot of credit in here too. I even give Teri Hatcher a lot of credit here. Like I said at the beginning, it's not their fault. I wanted to like it, But at the end of the day, this is background music to me, and I hate to say that about a Bond movie. I really do. There's something usually, oh, this is the one really cool scene when this happens, or that really pops me. I don't have that for this.
Yeah.
It's lame.
Lame duck.
Yeah.
Sad.
Final thoughts, sir. Give it to me. I was ranting a little bit. I
Even with
apologize.
Bond, you know, showing his skills as a cunning linguist. This has nothing. This is a nothing burger with the idea of wanting to be a Bond film.
Yeah, and when we get done with all of Pierce movies, we're going to do like we did with the other actors. We're going to rank those just of that, and then eventually we'll rank all the Bond movies or whatever, because I know you and I are still real big fans of Her Majesty's Secret Service, and we have different opinions about some of the other actors and where their movies are at. But right now, there's things I liked about both, but they both feel incomplete to me. So it's hard for me to sit there and say like one is not clearly better than the other to me. They're both kind of mid, as some people like to say, or meh, as I would think of too.
I would like to say that I think they both kind of suck. So
it's just there. It's average. It'll if it, you know, it made me go, man, I hope the next one's better than this, which is sad to say. But sometimes you get a turd when you have a franchise that's done like 30 movies. I mean, let's be honest.
That's fair. That's fair.
All right, everybody listening, I want to thank you guys for checking us out. Again, our schedule for this is when Professor Pixel and I review episode by episode of a season of a TV show. When we get done with that season and rank the episodes, and then we switch to another show, then we usually do a James Bond review. So we'll be doing the next one, The World Is Not Enough, in sometime in 2026. So I'm looking forward to us getting started on our next TV show next week here on the Extreme Movie Show. For Professor Pixel, RDV, and everybody involved here at the Extreme Movie Show, thank you all for listening. Have a good night. Good night now.
The name was Bond. James Bond.